Hello and welcome back to the tavern. I'm your normal host and the game master for Tabletop Misfits, James, and we have two wonderful guests tonight. Sadly, our wonderful co-host Matt was not able to make it, but we have somebody even better. We were going to bring all four of them actually on, but for this one specifically, we're going to have two of our guests. The one is a now good friend, I guess you would say. We've been spending quite a bit of time chatting after Genghis Khan. Derek is the artist of this Kickstarter, and of top of that, we also have uh, Andrew Frinkle, who is the writer and I believe producer of Song of the Nehmet. Right? Did I pronounce that
Yeah,
right?
Nehmet. Yeah,
Nehmet. Okay.
doesn't really
So
matter. I guess. Everybody's going to call
what
it
the
their own way.
audience calls it,
Yeah,
it will be what it is.
potato,
But
potato.
right. But
Mm.
normally we come on these shows and we just offer tips, tricks for DMs and game masters and players. But why not promote some of these amazing creators that are out there putting up their time, energy, and money for that point and coming up with these amazing settings that you can just grab and take with you? And that to me was kind of a really awesome opportunity to bring both of them on to show off what Song of the Name It is. So before we dive into it, just a little background on the two of you. How long have you guys been playing tabletop role playing games?
Do you want to go first, Derek?
Yeah, sure. Hey, my name's Derek, and I'm a Leo. I'm an only child. I like water sports and long walks on the beach. Honestly,
Different show.
oh, sorry. Honestly, probably since the sixth grade, I'm almost 51. My first game was a D&D box set, and I cognitively was just not there to understand all the rules by myself. And the first probably 30 games was there's a door in front of you. What do you want to do? Kick it open it, or leave it alone? And the whole goal was always to find the baby that was kidnapped. It was the princess's baby. And
Okay.
then I started to actually read it and understand, like, oh, that's what the 20 dice is for, sided dice is for, to hit armor. Oh my God, that's how it works. And it was a lot of hack and slash in the beginning. Um, Never had great success with D&D for story, but Vampire the Masquerade Champions, and then eventually into D&D. You know, most people don't say, "Oh my God, I got this, cool sword and 20 gold," and they like, "Oh my character did this and this and that and this." And as a storyteller, I want that person to love or hate and mourn that piece of paper that's in their hands.
Oh, 100%. I
We can do
completely
that.
I
You got the
completely
book.
agree that one of my favorite moments, and we talk about it a lot on the tavern, is when you can make a player in character cry or cheer or jump out of their seat, and they don't realize that they're actually physically showing those emotions off until they take a moment and realize, like,
Yep.
I'm actually tearing up, or I'm, gritting my teeth, or whatever the emotion is that you're invoking at the time. When you see that come out of a player, it is a very good and exciting moment for a GM, for a game
I've
master.
used D&D for therapy as well. I work in psych at a
Okay.
major hospital, and it has helped young kids find their voice. This
Mm-hmm.
one young lady didn't have the best hygiene, no self-confidence. I printed out an elf picture for her. I'm like, that's you. And all
Yeah.
these thug kids around the table, like, oh my God, you're my girlfriend. I want you to be my girlfriend. And she became a leader of that group. I mean,
Awesome.
there's some really cool things you can do therapeutically as a therapist and or just have lots of fun.
Yeah, I think if I would have if it would have been a lot of years before this, and I would have noticed how much D&D would have been an impact in my life up to this point, I believe I probably would have went into some sort of psychology with D&D or with tabletop role playing as a facet for that. Because I'm not just, like I said, I was telling you guys earlier, I'm active duty military. I work on computers all day long. So this is literally letting me use the other side of my brain for whatever I do. Normally it's ones and zeros and making sure things work exactly the way they need to. This is more the creative side and allows me to flow and just enjoy and have a lot of fun in the process. So, sixth grade for you, Derek. What
Yes,
about you,
sir.
Andrew?
More like 10th, 11th grade, I think.
Okay.
Uh, it was always kind of the like that fringe hobby that was
Oh,
kind of
goodness,
disdained.
yes.
I'm a little bit younger than Derek, but I mean, I'm 42 now. So, I mean, you grew up hearing the stories about the kids in the sewers and chasing each other with swords and stuff.
Yeah.
So, um, actually, it was Magic the Gathering that got me into role
Okay.
playing, that and
That's
fantasy novels.
pretty common. Um, yeah,
It's
no,
a
I
it's a
like,
gateway game, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, so my neighbors are playing second edition in their basement, and I just got dragged over there by the exchange student that we were hosting, and he's like, I met these guys on the bus and they play Dungeons and Dragons, and he was it's like, Norwegian guy, what are you getting me to? So but it ended up being pretty cool, and I ended up having to DM a lot. I think I only played 3 times before I had to start DMing because I always had
Yeah.
stories, and it just kind of went from there. And so we did a lot of second edition, and I
Okay.
have a lot of the first edition books and such too. And hearing
Those
what
are,
you guys talked about with the characters is in being how the characters are, or the stories rather, are more character driven now than gold and loot driven. I find that to be more true in 5e now. I think that perhaps because of the feats and stuff. And I find that a lot of the stuff that they're adding now is stuff that we used to do as house rules. Because I mean, otherwise you have 4 rogue characters, even if you multi-class, they were very
mhm.
cookie cutter. So it's just cool to see all these changes that make it more memorable, I guess. So
Yeah, no, those are, it's funny because you said Vampire the Masquerade. So you talk about the fringe person, right? So I started in, you know, collaborative storytelling, collaborative reading, that kind of thing, writing. And then I moved to D&D because I found that there was a system that actually made sense for it because I didn't actually find out about D&D until I was in high school. But I had been role playing and I had been creating my own systems since I was like 8 years old because I didn't know there was
Wow.
anything else. I didn't know there was anything else about it. So we would go on websites that would offer ways to write back and forth, and we would just do collaborative writing. I sometimes wish I could go back and read some of these because I was doing this at 8 years old, and I have no idea how good I was or how bad I was, but it was just such a fun moment. I actually had it, the character that I just got written up for GUI Cube. His name, his purpose, his character driven background is all based on the character that I had originally written when I was 8 years old, over almost a little over 25 years ago. So
That is neat.
yeah, it's Dakin is a pride and joy in my heart. I actually sent it to my best friend from from middle school, and I said, "Look, I've got the character that we used to write about on on the websites so many years ago," and he messaged me back. He said, "That's so cool because, like I said, we would just write. You know, you'd write a paragraph or two stating what's going on with your character and with the environment around you, and then somebody swings in and takes it away and continues it. And you just had a mutual respect as authors that you didn't do anything that would jeopardize a character that somebody else has put life into, and it was a lot of fun. Um, but then after I joined D&D, I got into the darker versions of tabletop roleplay, which was Vampire the Masquerade. And I lived at that time in northeastern Ohio, right after the Kent State shootings, and that's where I played vampire. So we had 30 to 40 people sometimes, depending on the night, from 7 o'clock in the evening until sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, running around Kent State campus in full
So you're
blown
a
trench.
LARPer.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah, full blown trench coats, white face paint, whole decked out, hair was spiked at that time when I had some, and yeah, we had a blast. But it was funny because we had a mutual agreement with Kent State, and during the entirety of our campaign, which was over 3 years long, we never had a single incident during those nights around the area that we would be in where there was any sort of vandalizing, danger, fights, none of that. And so they just let us keep going. But it was crazy to think that way when we were fighting that same era and that same time period when that big shooting went down, just literally in the same campus that we played at. So, but it can show you that, yeah, they might be the fringe of society, but a lot of them have some amazing hearts and
Amen.
are one of the most caring people I've ever met, and it just continues to grow throughout this. Now that D&D is becoming more mainstream, we're actually seeing it affecting people, I believe, better than we were beforehand, because now people aren't scared to say they play. And the amazing thing about D&D, as I tell a lot of people, is that it allows you to pick a persona of yourself, or a persona that maybe you would want to be or want to test or understand, and roll with it. And it's your job as the game master then to give those moments of opportunity to do so. So before we just go down a rabbit hole about nothing but the amazingness of D&D, let's talk a little bit about your setting here. So, Song of the Nehmet, I read it a little bit, but I want to hear a little bit more. So, what is the background? What is the world building, large lore that is around this song?
Okay, so the way the world started is back in the beginning of the world, there were two races, the Laveri and the Nehmet. And there was kind of like a male, female, both sides of the coin. And they ended up having a war. It's kind of a Cain and Abel type thing that fell out. And from them sprung all the other races and all the other creatures. Well, eventually,
Okay.
eventually those creatures included humans, and they prayed a god into existence, which helped banish those two dangerous races from this plane of reality. And now they want back. So it's been thousands of years, and they're ready to come back, and they couldn't quite make it back into our plane of reality without changing themselves a bit. So they've kind of tweaked and changed
So
and mutated themselves to make it back.
that's what these things are, right? The seven.
Yeah, yeah. So the
Okay.
seven are well, they're kind of like the chosen seven, and they're trying to get back in, and they're attempting to basically breach reality so they can come back as, instead of just a few of them, and they can basically rebuild their whole army.
Okay.
Because in each of the races that are currently inhabiting the world, there's still that seed, like the genetic seed of the original two races, so they could bring
Right.
them back if they want to. So, and that kind of sets it off, but not to give too much away, but
Right.
they're not going to be allowed to just go for it unchecked. So there's a balance there. So they were
Okay.
able to come back, but then the heroes seemingly randomly selected are the counterbalance to them.
Okay.
So it ends up being a little, I don't know, was it Suicide Squadish, because they're not like the best heroes. It's not the
Yeah,
best of the
I
best.
was reading through some of them, and we're gonna definitely go into some of those, because one of the things I love as a game master is finding things that I can breach and gather inspiration for, and then twist and turn to use for myself.
Mhm.
I love modules. I think they're great. I think they're written for a great story. But sometimes it's like, hey, I need this piece for my story, or I need this piece for my story. And you said you've got two new classes, right? Or
Yeah,
subclasses? Are they classes or subclasses?
they're basically classes, I guess. I
Okay.
mean, if you're familiar, say, like obviously you're familiar, but if you're familiar with how, like, say, a warlock works, you'd probably be like the soulcaster class,
Okay.
because it works fairly similar in some respects. But instead of, say, having like a dark entity tied to you that gives you powers, you're actually just draining life force from those around you to create magical effects.
We can show off this awesome. So all this artwork, just because I want to give the credit, it all goes to Derek, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this artwork's
Well,
great.
no. I mean, it does, but under Andrew's guidance, because there's some really weird crap in here. I don't say crap. really weird art direction. Like, you want me to combine a monkey and a raccoon? What?
Oh no, I saw the seven. I didn't take any pictures of the seven because I didn't want to spoil those. Those are really neat and they're very odd, and they've just got this uniqueness to them. I did take two pictures of the two classes, so I
Yeah,
wanted to show those off if you don't mind.
sure, sure.
So the one you were just speaking about, this is the Soulcaster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very like Dark Witch, Necromancer almost feel. Uh,
Somewhere between a necromancer and a warlock, I guess.
yeah, it's more like you're a warlock, but you don't have to deal with the potential of somebody sitting behind your shoulder going, "I can take your power away whenever I want to." Like,
Yeah, but there's a cost here. So
yeah,
the way each spell or effect works is it drains life force from those around you.
okay.
So even allies.
Oh,
So yeah, so let's say you wanted to fly, and so a lot of these are sort of like telekinetic abilities to an extent. So if you
okay.
wanted to push people or create a wave or create a wall in front of you, you'd be able to do that. But depending on the size or the amount of force, you would have to drain a specific amount of life from those around you. So then some of your allies are making checks as well. So they might lose. So say if it takes 20 hit points to create this wall of force to stop a charging army or a charging horde of little raccoon monkeys, then you would have to create that
Charging
effect.
horde of
And
raccoon monkeys.
so just in my head when we were thinking about the character, it was very comic booky, but I imagined just this character showing up because each character has a suggested start point, and this one's kind of a flexible one. But I imagine that the other six heroes are battling it out, and they're getting in a tough spot, and this girl throws herself into the middle of the like a tangle of bad guys or monsters, and just sucks life force from them to push them out or something like that. It's
Okay.
very Thor comic booky kaboom or
Yeah.
Hulk smash. So the idea of stealing their life force to basically throw it back at them is pretty good. And there are some options too, because she's she has a conscience, right? I mean, you can, I guess, if you wanted to, you could play her totally evil, but it would not be the best team player.
Right,
But
right, right. Yeah. It's
sometimes what
very
you can also,
difficult sometimes to I love evil. I love its thought process behind it, but a lot of times playing an evil character, especially playing one evil character in a whole party of good people, is very difficult. And it takes a very either skilled player or a very skilled GM to really guide that properly, because otherwise you're just it breaks out into chaos very, very quickly.
yeah, I mean, so you can either take the route of, hey, we need to work together at least for now to survive, or you can play her with something of a conscience, which is I like to do with this character. And
Mhm.
so one of the effects too is you're allowed to not drain life from other people and take it on yourself. So if you had that effect, you could potentially draw from the 20 hit points or whatever from yourself. And it's random too. So the GM might assign, say, this is going to cost 2d10 to try this. So you might get lucky and it only costs two, but it might be 20 as well. So that I like the randomness of it. So you never really want to know, kind of really know the cost until it actually hits. They're going to tell you, I want to do this. All right, that's going to cost, this is like a medium size effect, and there's tables and rules in there. I
Mhm.
think that's going to cost 2d10. And then you got, all right, I'm going to try it. And
So
then
by the way you're describing it, and also by what the little bit I had a chance to read. Now I'm telling now the reason I say this is we were setting this up, and I really did. I got really involved in the story and wanted to continue to read through. But this is what almost 170 pages.
that's just part of it. I had to
Okay,
split it into two files. I'm at 240 right now, if you count maps and tokens and stuff like
right.
that.
I
It'll
mean, like
probably
a
easily
large
250.
large book. It's not like it's something that I could break out in a couple hours and just burn through.
Well, I think that's the actual beauty of it. It can be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, from what he and I have talked about, it can be broken up to almost three different parts.
Nice.
And it can be utilized for many more adventures. Andrew's got everything written down for more adventures and is biting at the bit to like, hey, let's get this out the door and let's get the next one going.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a great trilogy, if not more,
Ooh.
books to follow.
You heard it right here, guys. Trilogy. So this is not the first one. We're gonna have multiple coming out for this story. But
I do write novels for fun, so.
hey, writing for fun is something that I completely respect.
National
I write,
Novel
I
Writing,
play.
National Novel Writing Month. It's fun stuff. So,
I
get it.
don't. I wish I would do some. I really need to try to do that one year. My downfall is my brain and my time is so spread thin these last couple few months that I would feel like I wouldn't be able to give the proper dedication to something like that. And I just can't do that. If I'm not going to give my all on that kind of thing where it's going to require quite a bit of dedication, that I'm going to slide that one to the back burner and keep working running what I'm running.
That's why you gotta have a deadline. That's why like National Novel Writing Month, it's November 1st to November 30th. You gotta
Yeah.
do 50,000 words, knock it out. I did it 2 years in a row and it was fun.
Nice.
So,
I'm working on right now. The current story I'm writing right now is 25,000 words right now. So
you're halfway.
yeah, I'm halfway. Right.
Yeah.
It's taken me 3 months to do it, but this also, yeah, I won 3 weekly D&D adventures. I have a full-time job. And I run this show, which I love. But
As an artist, primarily, I do visual stuff.
yeah,
And I've been blessed. Mark Reinhagen, the vampire guy, I did Lost Lore with him, and he actually let me write. So I'm a published writer too, but it's so cool to paint with words.
yeah,
Because what I put on paper, that's the visual. But to paint with words, it's up to the individual to interpret what I write. It's like going to the movies. Harry Potter, the movies were great, nothing at all like the books. But now everyone's like, oh, that's Harry Potter. But before that, you had your own visual of what
right.
Harry, Hermione, and everything looked like. It wasn't defined.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I love the Harry Potter series. I think it's great. That was one of the few series that I read after I saw the movies because I was in college already, and I was like, I'm just, I was big Lord of the Rings, Dragonlance, all the deep
Yes,
fantasy.
Dragonlance.
And then all of a sudden, it was like Harry Potter came out, and one of my suite mates was like, "Hey, you want to read it?" And I was like, "You know what? I last few weeks of the semester, why not? I don't have anything else going on." So I read it, and yeah, I was like, all I could see was the movie at that point. I was like, man, I wish I would have read this early, because
Yeah.
it would have given much more of an appreciation. Because I know when I read Lord of the Rings the first time, everything flowed and you could see it in your mind. And then I watched the movie and I was like, some things they hit right.
Some things
Some
fit,
things
didn't
they
they?
don't feel to me properly. Some of the characters they missed, in my opinion. But I won't. That's another topic for another day, because I will argue that for a while. But yeah, those are really, yeah. It's See, I think I'm the exact opposite though. Like, I love writing. Man, if I could literally look at what I've written and move my hand the proper way to make what you make, man, oh, I would be so much happier. But we each have our gifts, and when we work all together, that seems to be the best way to make this come together.
Very true.
So,
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Because I mean, I used to try to draw comic books and it didn't work out. So I could spend all day working on one picture and it wouldn't look right.
Yeah.
Where I could crank out sentences easily and quickly
Right,
and do
yeah.
pages, and it just
But
it's a good
as an
collab.
artist thing, like, people will read your stuff and get it. And I'm just as guilty. You looked at a comic book, flip, flip, oh, that's cool. And when I did comic books, an entire page took maybe 8 to 10 hours to get right.
Yeah.
And someone just glances at it, and it's like, come on, man, at least give me 30 seconds per page. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
just kind of skim. All right,
just
read the
gotta
word.
skim
That bubble's
through
too
it, okay.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bubble's too big.
Yeah, I can't
It's more
took
than
all that
7 words.
picture away. Move on, yeah. No,
All right.
So we've got the Soulcaster here, and
Yeah.
I really think it's such a unique idea that it doesn't just take from itself, it takes from the things around it. And there's always this random chaos that kind of builds behind it.
Mhm.
And that always makes the dice go, it could be great or it could be horrible. It could be great, it could be horrible. And I like that chance feel.
Yeah,
Um,
so this character was an add-on. So originally it was written, there were 7 characters, 7 good ones, 7 bad ones. And for this is kind of a reworking and reimagining and expanding of the thing with all this art. And as a stretch goal, we added this 8th character. So she's an alternate. It's totally new and interesting. So it was fun playtesting just last week, and just some of the directions, because I was DMing it, and some of the directions the playtesters took were not what I expected.
yeah,
I
oh,
mean,
I
I,
bet.
I mean, I like wizards and all that, but I
Hmm.
really like the idea that magic is very fluid and there's no set spell list. So yes, I'm going to give you 6, 8, 12 ideas and general cost for you to get your
Right.
idea. But then, I give you wall, and then the player decides, all right, I'm going to make a horizontal wall and walk on it. Okay, so you're basically making stairs. That's fine. And it's going to
Yeah.
levitate. I mean, so
And it
they'll
still
take
makes
my,
sense. It's
hmm,
just it gives the player a lot more player action to craft their own way of doing things.
It also
You
helps because everybody has that rules person. I know the rules, and Fireball does this AOE,
yeah,
so I'm going to step right outside of it and I'm safe. And like,
absolutely.
dude, you just metagame, stop that. When you throw this random stuff in,
yeah.
there could be a big surprise.
Oh yeah, 100%. I do agree. So uh, audience, if you guys like these things, definitely shout it out in the chat room because we want to hear what you guys are seeing, what you guys are liking. We're gonna start posting up the Kickstarter here in the chat room for a little bit every once in a while, just to let you guys know to go check that thing out because um, you guys are you guys have what, a couple more,
Not long left.
not long left. Yeah, we want to
It's
make
been
sure that.
a haul. We have 7 days left, and
Okay.
we're not too far from funding. And unlike some other campaigns, we ended up doing something where we have funding goals. So every 20% funded, we add new things. So we've already dropped a few things like tokens for whether you're playing VTT or if you want to print them out and do basically your own paper minis. Um, we're doing a lot of add-ons. We're trying to add extra maps and just details. So we're very close to
That's
80% right now.
that's crazy to say. So that is super. Um, Blammo is X, but some is Y. Surprise. Yeah. Um, Doctor Nine Godson is the AOE. He was saying that it's like, if you can shift the AOE a little bit, so maybe you can split it in two, so it's going in two different directions, hitting each one at the same time, that kind of thing. The Kickstarter's out in the chat room, guys, so definitely check that out. If you're new to the channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe or follow button, depending on if you're coming in from YouTube or Twitch. But yeah, we're going to continue on. We're going to go check this one. This is the secondary caster class that we had talked about in before we launched. So you have to give me a little bit more information on this one because I don't know much on this one.
Right. So this is the elemental mage. And again,
Okay.
that was, so we had the soulcaster with
Yeah.
the wings. The wings are something she can summon. She doesn't always have them. There's kind of a dark backstory to how the soulcaster is created. And so I just switched over to Twitch. So yeah, the one with the wings is the soulcaster. The one in the robe um, is the elemental mage. And again, I love having mage classes or
Oh, I
magic
mixed them. I
classes.
mixed them up. Oh,
Yeah,
I
I'm sorry. I didn't have
apologize
Twitch. I didn't have
completely.
Twitch open. I was
Oh,
completely engrossed on the Zoom window.
no, you're totally fine. I personally I was like I saw dark and brooding and scary and I was like soul mage, like soul caster, and that was the elemental mage. So that was my bad. So
So this is yeah. So this is
yeah,
yeah. I'm sorry. I just switched to Twitch. So yeah, the one
you're
with the
fine.
wings is the Soulcaster. She's our cover. Or she's our cover girl, and I just got miniatures made of her. I just had Sure Shot Printing
Oh, cool.
out of Texas. So they're printing them for me. And I need to start putting those up and have them available very soon.
Well,
But yeah, she's
I hate to like pull from your minis guy, but we have a guy on our stream that legitimately makes minis for companies. So if you need some extra hands there, we can always set you up with a conversation.
absolutely. Because I mean, this is just the first real project, and I've
Yeah.
got another one coming. And I mean, you don't, you see a lot of Kickstarters these days with miniatures, and it's almost a rarity to not have them now.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit late to the game. I was like, I don't really think we need it. And then I jumped in, and I had a guy.
It really depends on the direction you want to go. Miniatures are great when you're around the table. So you're either going to kind of dive into the table aspect of things, or you got to dive headfirst into the VTT aspect of things, and
Yeah.
making sure that your maps are, friendly with virtual tabletops, and you've got dynamic lighting and sounds and animations, that kind of thing. So really, it's just which direction would you? And this is what I notice when I'm looking at Kickstarters and other opportunities like that. This character though, like I want a mini and I'm gonna place it up on my monitor and I'm gonna paint it. It's like this because this character is freaking cool. Like I don't know what it is about this one.
It was amazing. Andrew was like, I like red. I'm like, all right, I have an idea. I'm gonna.
And he's the green guy, so
Yeah,
it was like a struggle.
as an artist, I'm partially colorblind. I can't even make this up. I've had 3 open heart surgeries and a fungus attacked my heart. I'm good now, but for a while, I'm one of 4 people in the world who survived this. This medicine they gave me, like, it's gonna mess your eyes up a little bit. So I lean towards greens, a lot of my artwork.
So a
He
lot
said
of it
reds.
is it because of like cooler
Cooler colors are
cooler
easier.
colors? Yeah, like blues, greens.
It actually
purples.
may. What I'm worried about is I'm not seeing what you guys are seeing, and maybe I'm just getting lucky that people like my stuff. It's like a happy accident.
That's
So,
awesome.
so I painted this chick here, and he's like, "Yeah, I like it." And then he made a miniature out of it, and that's a really humbling experience.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Really humbling.
I feel the same way when when I'm writing the adventure right now for GUI Cube, and I had not gotten anything back. It was like, hey, we want you to write the adventure and start putting the writing down. And then when I started seeing the images start flying in, I was like, oh my God, my stuff's coming into artwork. And I wrote this, and it is extremely humbling. It's extremely like, it's a dream come true when you see like your stuff is actually going out there and being shown by other people in different media than just what you're used to.
Yep.
And I think that's the coolest thing about it. But yeah, no. So we have one of our artists who have done work for us before in our chat room right now, and she is just googly eyeing right now this character. So she is. Brina is one of our helpful artists that does a lot of our characters. She did all of our one shot characters as part of the charity, and it was amazing. And she's awesome. But yeah, no, this character blew my mind when I saw her. She's
Well, tell her to friend me, please, on Facebook.
to friend you. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I will. I will actually. I will just connect you two just one to one. You guys.
I don't know it all. I know enough to be dangerous. I want to help out, and I'm always.
Oh, she doesn't Facebook. She Instagrams, but I can also connect you on.
Okay.
We'll get you guys connected through Discord most likely, because that's probably the easiest way everybody gets connected. But we'll figure a way. We'll get it done. I promise. Get it done. All right. Yeah. So we've done characters, and so
we talked a little. I think we got
Caster. Now
let's talk
elemental mage.
Yeah, I was trying to type.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So we're going to switch back to her artwork.
I'm not going to flip the picture because they stared at the elemental mage the entire time.
Okay.
I was like,
I guess I should have been paying attention to both screens, but yeah.
You're fine.
So her wings on this one, that's something she can summon. It's one of her abilities. So the miniature won't have wings, but it still looks pretty cool. I ordered a 75 millimeter for me because I like painting. I got like 400 of them in the closet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You looking for a job?
Uh,
I've got 500 and some minis coming to me in like the next month or so.
I mean, I use it to play with the kids and stuff, but
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
no, mine will be, be used for virtual tabletops, that kind of thing. Well, that's a different project we're working right now. So,
no, that's
but
cool.
yeah.
So the elemental mage, right?
Yeah.
So again, I really don't like. I don't really like having a spell list. So
Okay.
uh, this is another one. So, but the elemental mage, for the way her powers work, is she can use fire, air, water, wood, metal, or earth.
Hmm.
And so you have to have a source of those around you. So say, let's say you want to pull an effect like a fireball. So you can do
Mhm.
fireball, but you have to have fire around you. Otherwise, the difficulty goes up exponentially. So if you're trying to do a fireball and the only fire around you is like a single match in a dark cave, the difficulty is going to be like
Yeah.
30.
Yeah. Or you're gonna make a fireball this big instead of this big,
Yeah.
you know?
Or it puffs out the smoke and you're like, now I'm in the dark.
Yeah.
But so if you do it in say a bar that has an open fire pit and there's candles on the wall and stuff, you can draw from all of them to create your fireball. So the difficulty is easier.
Okay.
But she favors air and fire, so she gets a bonus to those elements. And the water and earth she does okay with, and then wood and metal there's a variable in there, so it's either +3 to -3 depending. You roll a d6.
Okay.
So you again, it's every effect is kind of a negotiation with your GM. Like, all right, I want to, I want to collapse the this whole tunnel around me. Okay, or behind me. Okay, well that's Earth. All right, so you're gonna
Right.
get with Earth, you get a +3. And but man, there's plenty of Earth around you, but the difficulty is the amount you're doing, and you just kind of hash it out, and then you roll to see how it works out. And you have a certain amount of magic points or mana points that you can burn through. And
Oh, nice. Yeah,
so
so very not to like pull inspirations, and it could be potentially, I don't know, but it very sounds very much like Full
channeling.
Metal, like alchemy type
Oh, Full Metal
mentality.
Alchemist.
Yeah,
Yeah, somebody
Full
else
Metal
said that too.
Alchemist. So the more you have of that type of material, the worse the stronger
Easier.
things could be, or the easier things could be to produce. I like that.
Yeah. And then she's got a little brother she has to save who fell in with some bad people. And that's how her storyline starts. And he has similar powers, but he can only work metal. So he does nasty stuff. Like he keeps like a handful of nails in his pocket and then he can make them crawl through somebody's body and tear them up from the inside and stuff like that.
Ooh.
So all he's got to do is stick a nail in you and crawl it up your arm and
Oh
whatnot.
goodness, that's some Magneto shit right there. Tell me.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
Oh,
he's wimpy compared to her though. But yeah, so I mean, he had to be interesting, or he can, throw
yeah.
coins at you and
I,
stuff
I
like that.
do. I think this is not saying that it's not. This is definitely not D&D newbie friendly. I would say a lot of newer game players are gonna have a little hard time because they have to break what we call the video game mentality, right? So you have these things you can do, and that's it. Uh oh. Um, why did my why is my
He turned into an avatar.
I did. I turned it into an avatar because my thing keeps randomly just kicking off, and I don't know why. Maybe I have a button or something I'm pushing. I don't know what it is, but every once in a while it's been doing that, and it's been doing that for the last 2 sessions now, and I've got to figure out what's going on with it. It's driving me crazy. Uh, but back to the topic is I think when you give people so much range, for a newer player it's going to be a little more difficult, but for a veteran, oh my gosh, there's so much to this thing. Thank you for the follow. That this is just incredible to think about, where you can do pretty much. I mean, when they say that the sky is the limit, and these specifically these two characters, the sky really is the limit. If your creativity and your ingenuity can come up with it, and the dice are friendly enough, then you can pretty much do what you'd like, which I think is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I like that with magic characters, and
Yeah.
the game is designed a little bit for, I could definitely see where one of the characters could be used, say, maybe by a newer player, and
Yeah.
then you have a couple veterans pulling them along with these more difficult characters. And it's not intended to have both of the magic classes at the same time. It's probably
Okay.
either or. I mean, you could. I mean,
And I'll
in
say
all
most
honesty,
most people when they start D&D, and this is a complete stereotype, it is what I've seen personally. It's not me stating that this is every time it happens. Most of the time people stay away from magic users when they first start D&D. Anyways, and that's because there's so much of a broad range of things you can do with it. Uh, I see a lot of rangers, you see a lot of fighters, you see a lot of rogues, you see a lot of barbarians, those types of classes. Wizards and sorcerers, sometimes they just people stay away from them because there's so many. I mean, you've got to pick between, especially if you let everybody. If it's not like the old days where you could kind of where you normally would say, "Hey, we're going to use this book and one more, and that's it. We're not doing anything else." Because that's what 3.5 was about. Because if not, you had 65 books that you could pull from, and that blew my mind enough. Now with fifth edition, they just opened it up to the world because of virtual gaming and D&D Beyond and those types of things. So you can look through the list of 150 different items, but you have to figure out which ones you want. That to me
yeah.
is a lot for some players.
That's like the donut shop behind Andrew. I know I want a donut. Oh, but look at all the donuts there.
Exactly.
Too many to choose from.
So many
Too
to
many.
choose from. If you're a fighter, you're like, okay, I've got fighter.
I got big axe.
I get a
That's what I need.
weapon. I've got a shield. We're good to go. Let's roll. And I think those are definitely good points to think about. But these two classes to me just bring that inspiration and that creativity out so much more. And as a person who's played all the classes, I'm like, I want to sink my teeth into the two that I've never played and that I will be able to do what I want. You're always at that level where you're asking the game master, well, the words say this, but can I do it
Yeah.
this way? And this kind of allows you to do that in a much more um, grounded way because it's already built into the class that this is how that class works, is that there's a lot of freedom to what you do. I really like that. I can sit here and talk about that all day long. This is so cool. Uh,
I mean, there are the other characters too, which are takes on the more classic. I've got the Ranger, and he's got
mhm.
some awesome attacks, but he's also arthritic. So after a few awesome attacks, when he goes to a recharge, there's a chance that his hands lock up. So I mean, I've taken stuff like that, or like a shape shifting barbarian that can only change to cute, cuddly little creatures.
Oh,
So
that
I
sounds
mean,
like fun.
he makes a pretty sweet looking little bunny from his 7 foot frame down. So we were trying to play with the mechanics of it because I've
Yeah.
play tested it a couple times. It,
So just on
it,
a secondary idea of this. So these characters that are built for this, they're
Mhm.
built for this story. So is it easy or is it kind of difficult to bring a custom character into the world, into the story? Would you say?
I mean, you could do it any way you want. I mean, I haven't tried this storyline that way. It would be fun to try. I
Yeah.
think see what they would do. I don't think the standard
Because I don't know
base
if maybe
classes.
the classes are over like pumped up more because of what the world terror is, that kind of thing. Because a lot of
Mm,
times you'll see where people will give pre-made classes, but they don't do it just to pigeonhole you. They do it because the world itself is much different. So then it's not built the same, and that means that the classes has to either be ramped up or ramped down or whatever it may be. And I was wondering as I was reading through and seeing all these classes and seeing the uniqueness of some of these classes, that though it's a ranger, but not exactly. Like, and I see that with most of the classes that you have put in there.
yeah, I mean, I looked at so I basically ran through and made a 5e. I already had them made, but then I wanted to see. I wanted to make sure it was pretty 5e compatible.
Mhm.
So there were a couple things I had to add or tweak, or change the verbiage, because the originally when I made this, it was back for 2E, and I wrote this story in the 1990s, and we played it then. So this is a modern rehash of it.
Right.
We've got a little bit different powers. They didn't have feats back then. I mean, every third, like level 3 fighter was basically cookie cutter of each other, minus whatever you had of equipment. So he's got a +2 sword. Oh, he's got his shield of the winds or whatever, whatever.
Right. No, 100%.
I mean, that was back when you couldn't change ability scores without a wish. And like when you made a character, you were set there. So it's really cool to see the direction it's going, but I wanted to make sure it was as compatible as possible and change some of the verbiage on their original powers. And so we did that. And I also created a couple custom feats. And I even have a page in there suggesting feats for level 5, because level 5 is a pretty big milestone level for certain points that you hit to, and certain abilities that are unlocked. So everyone has kind of a special attack.
So that's why I was curious, because like not to like state that this is what you should use, but it seems like these classes have been built, and then their leveling up abilities have been built behind them to make sure that they give a challenging but rewarding connection at each point in the story, compared to just D&D being whatever.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew. It is because of the story. Andrew has a beautiful hook. Mm-hmm. No matter what character you play, there's a story and a reason why they're there.
Right.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great idea for a starting GM or a veteran GM to be able to pick up.
Right.
And, of course, we all tweak as we go along.
Yeah.
But I can see these characters, because you don't have to use my images that I've created. You can create your own. They don't have to be male or female. They can be your own.
Right.
But the story, the hooks, they have depth, they have feeling. There's wins, there's losses. Because the big thing Andrew and I talked about, I'm a storyteller when I play. There's been sessions when we don't even roll dice.
Oh, yeah, that's how we are.
Story. And if you can tell a compelling story, and of course there's going to be combat, but I hate waiting 50 minutes for my turn in combat. And so I'd rather
especially if you're not describing the conflict at all. If you're not, and that was something that we as game masters, specifically myself, because not only am I playing on it, playing behind a table, but we play streamwise, and we want to make sure that we're giving those experiences where you can see that combat coming to life. It's not just I roll the dice and what do I get? No, there's thematics behind it. There's story behind that. And some of those stories you can tell even in the midst of a 6-second combat can really reveal things about a character or about a situation. And I completely agree. Storytelling is kind of like the main thematic that we focus on as the Misfits. It's the main thematic I focus on with all my games. And it's just, if you're not telling a story, and you're not telling a story that's connecting the players to the story, then the players aren't going to get invested in it, and then you're not going to get invested in it, because you've got to tie the two together. Now, speaking of that, that kind of gives us our, let me see what else we've got for, because like I said, I don't want to just stay on one image at a time. I want to kind of bounce around and show off some of these other things as we talk about them. So we talked about the idea of the story, but this is something to me that I think more books should do. Now, I'm only going to show pieces of it, but I'm going to show it and then I'm going to talk about it for a minute. So this character here, Archpontiff Glorious III, is one of the NPCs in this world. He's an Archbishop, if I'm getting that right. Please correct me if I'm not correct, because
Archpontiff. Yeah, so he's basically the Pope of this world and stuff. Yeah. And this was written by Kelly Williams. He's one of our content creators. Nice. So he wrote an entire backstory on somebody that, depending on how the story plays out, you might only see in passing.
Right.
but he's also, so the way the story was structured is there's three acts as you try to survive this event that occurs, and I'm not going to say too much, but supposing you survive this event,
Right.
there's an epilogue which you can kind of continue in the city, and then
Yeah,
there's an entire
I
world
traced
map.
through the epilogue a little bit, but like I said, it was me diving through very quickly to get an idea of the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get the I kind of wanted to feel like I was sitting behind the scenes with the rest of the audience
Mhm.
because I've read quite a bit of it now, but it's to because I got caught. I legitimately I was like, oh, well, what's this person like? And I think those are really cool things to show off to most people. Is that not only did you give a character an NPC somebody and he's got full stats, so if he's inside of a any sort of combat, you have that ready. But
Mhm.
this background of him, so not only can you have to do you understand how he works and how he runs in the moment, you can understand the why behind it, which is huge, in my opinion. But you do this not just with one of your characters. Most of your NPCs have at least. I mean, I'm seeing half page, full page backstories on most of your all of your all of your PCs have all of your player characters will have at least a half page.
Yeah.
But even a lot of your monsters have a good chunk of backstory behind them, and that you don't see all the time. And I think that's a very unique thing that more GMs would appreciate. Because I know personally for me, if I'm rushing or if I've got this thing I want to do, I'm going to write a little bit more of who he is and not have the class already done and all the stats
Mhm.
ready for it, or vice versa. Oh, he's going to be in combat. I'm not going to need him. And then you find out, the way you described him to a player or the way you acted during that moment. Now they're trying to befriend him, but you have no real understanding of his goals or his motives. And then you start creating what they call, the TED character, the one who has 10 seconds of what is he? Who is he?
Yeah.
And the more you have of these that you can pull from as a GM, to me, just makes my life 100 times easier. And with it already being built into the story, it makes your story just that much richer because anybody they run into, you then can kind of jump into their shoes very quickly without having to come up with those things for yourself, which I think is really cool.
I think part of that stems from the fact that I wasn't sure how people want to run the game. So literally, you could have a solo session of an hour or two with each player and then pull them into the main story, or there's quick start options, or I mean, you can kind of run it however you want, depending on. I mean, if you want to do a 12-hour marathon session, you could probably power through the whole thing, other than the epilogue and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, no,
But
the epilogue, like I said, those to me, I was like, ooh, this is where I start getting excited because it's like, okay, how can I manipulate and start changing the story to a little bit more something different for my that I will if it's very comfortable for me. Um, Now I do a lot of very dark, gritty. So this
uh,
particularly for me hit right on the nail. I was like, oh, this I can play. I can play this simple. Uh, but it was I know a lot of other people they don't always have that same mentality.
yeah.
So yeah, so you've got NPCs, you've got player characters already built in. You have a rich story, a rich background, and then
Maps. Oh my God, Andrew's
maps.
great at maps.
Yeah, I'm even having some friends help me with some more maps because even doing more play testing, it just a lot of these are almost like pitched battles. I mean, so you have each of the seven has a familiar type beast that they can summon,
So
and
this is
when
the
they,
world, I think, the world map I'm showing now,
yeah,
right? Fairden.
yeah, Faradin should be in
Okay.
there.
Yeah, so this is the world map I'm showing right now. It's got all sorts of craziness on it. But inside here, where's this thing all takes place where?
sort of toward the middle on the right where it says Kingsland. So
Okay,
this
Kings.
takes place in the city of Averill, which is the capital of Ferdin.
Okay.
And so that's where the main story happens and the first part of the epilogue. And afterward, there's an entire campaign written where you get to explore all of these different kingdoms. And I've got custom races that are being put together. I mean, I had notes on them, but I'm pulling whole stat blocks and almost like racial histories and stuff put together. And that one's being done by Jason Brandon. He was on the Lost Lawn project as well. So he's writing the Fae race that lives in the Lake Kingdom, kind of
Okay.
in the middle left. And also the Erlenese folk are sort of a mole type dark dwarf folk. And then there's
Okay.
several human races and just a few things, a lot of culture written into each kingdom as well.
Right. And yeah, and I wanted to, I really was very careful showing off any of the maps because I don't want to spoil anything that could be considered an encounter or, give off DM secrets, those types of things. So this was kind of like, I was like, I'm just going to go big world. And that way we can show off the map.
Yeah.
um, but I will say, though, that is something that, especially since you're sitting in a world where virtual tabletop is a thing now. I mean,
Yeah.
you think about it, 5 years ago, virtual tabletop was really just hidden. It was almost like it was the fringe of D&D because nobody knew about it, and that's when Roll20 was the big dog, and nobody knew anything else. Um, or virtual tabletop was literally you building a TV screen and putting it on your table, and that was virtual tabletop. Like there wasn't this ability to do it across the United States or across the world that we do now. But needing those encounter maps and needing those ones to be sized well enough that they make sense with putting characters in them, I think is a huge, huge thing that creators must have in order to make it to stand out. Because those are needed, especially in big encounters, because you need to be able to show. Um, Not everybody can go through this in a theater of the mindset where
Yeah.
people like to see tokens, they like to see the visuals, that kind of thing.
Well, not only do we have tokens, we wait. There's more.
Wait,
We
there's
have little
more.
pop-ups that they're double-sided where you get to move them around.
Yeah, the
Nice.
I
paper
love that
minis.
idea.
It's very original Dungeons and Dragons. The paper stands up.
Yeah,
So
no.
even if you buy the print copy, you can cut them out of the back. And I'm doing like a blank page in the back. So if you had to say photocopy them, that's cool. Otherwise, just cut them out of the book.
I got it. You sent me a picture of that, so I can toss those up there.
Andrew's really thought a lot about all these stretch goals. We got so many of them. We have play mats that have. I don't know if we can tell. Andrew, you tell if you want to. I want to like.
Oh, the dice mats. Well, that's an add-on item. So yeah, we definitely talk about that. They're even in there. So some of your artwork and stuff that we should have, like the big bad guy facing off against our soulcaster, which everybody loves to look at. There you go. There's the tokens.
Yeah, those are tokens right there. Like I said,
That's going to be for the virtual tabletop ones.
Yeah.
And then we also have stand-ups where you
The
just kind of
stand-up
cut them
ones
out
from
and
the old
slip them in.
Yeah, those, man,
That's cool.
you just brought me back to the old days because, like I said, I talked about this last time, our last show, about not knowing what I had in my hands when I had it because my grandparents had an old box of like red box D&D dungeon built in all the little stands. I didn't know what the heck I was playing. I would just play around with it, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Da, 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 da. I was like probably 5 or 6 at the time. I didn't know what I was doing, but finding out later on that that thing was worth, is worth so much money nowadays. I was like, wow, I wish I would have kept that and stored it and made it an artifact for myself because I would have never gotten rid of it. But um, to say I had it still after all those years would have been very cool. Uh, but yeah, no, these tokens are pretty nifty, and they're very well detailed. They're different. They don't look like every other token that you see out there, which I think those types of things are worth the notice. But yeah, you guys are. You guys said you guys are what, 7 days out?
Yeah, and I don't know if he's one of your watchers, but I noticed we just hit our 80% fun goal. Damian Van Hart, thank you.
Yes, Damien is one of our watchers.
Thank you,
Cool,
Mr.
cool.
Damien.
Thank
Yep.
you.
He's
So that, yeah, every
So-
$500 we're giving something away. So our total campaign goal is 2,500. So that just put us at the $2,000 goal. $500 more, we hit it. And then I have goals every $500 after that. So
that's awesome.
3,000, 3,500, all the way up to 10 grand.
Well,
If we hit
anyway,
10 grand, my wife has to cosplay as the soul caster, the one with like the wings and stuff.
yeah,
So I started shopping to buy parts of a costume, but we got to hit 10 grand. And
yeah, that's
I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's a stretch right now.
yeah, but to me, that's an awesome way to think forward and stretch that goal. But yeah, no, anything we at the tavern at Tabletop Misfits can do to help promote you, we're going to try to do our best to get this out for the next 7 days or so to really help you guys grow in any way we can. Uh, like I said, I had somebody very, very close to me tell me that the best way to build anything is to make a whole bunch of friends, and hopefully that will one day scratch your back in the long run. And that's kind of what we're doing here is we're
Yeah.
building a community of friends and people that have that same passion for D&D, and we're just going to keep pushing it out there. We don't, as I told people before, we don't ask anything in return from our guests. We ask people if they're willing to donate stuff, that kind of thing, if they're willing to help the stream. But we don't require anything for you to come on the show and hang out with us and talk about your stuff. I don't think that should be a thing. I think we should be doing this out of the kindness of our hearts. And I will continue to do that until my electricity is shut off and I won't be able to do that anymore. It shouldn't be anytime soon. So we should be good for a while. But it has been a pleasure with both of you just talking through this story, talking through this Kickstarter. I really hope this thing finishes with a big blast for you guys. You deserve it. You've done a lot of work, a lot of energy, and a lot of dedication into this thing. And how cool would it be to see this thing just blow up? Like, right? That's kind of the passions we all have to see this thing go crazy. So yeah, any of our viewers, if you're watching this now or if you're watching this in the VOD later this week, make sure you go check them out. Come find any of our social medias on Tabletop Misfits. We'll be posting out the Kickstarter link to let people know to go check that out. Thank you once again, Damien, for clicking that button and going to help them out and getting that 80% goal to where they're at. It is the end of our show. We're over an hour long. We do have a surprise giveaway, if I'm not mistaken, from Andrew.
Yep.
So, Andrew, what are we giving away tonight?
Definitely want to give out a PDF copy of the book.
Okay.
And Derek was possibly talking about doing something too. I don't know. Did you?
I am, if that's all okay.
There it went again.
I would like to draw somebody's character, and what I need is the race, gender, hairstyle, gear, general attitude, any markings, tattoos, weapons, time of day, and a background. And I'd love to be able to do that for somebody here.
Wow. That's an opportunity, guys. I know we don't have a ton of people here in the moment, but if you are in here, please give us the shout out, blast up. If you just put up in the chat room, if you can just write in Nehmet, Nehmet, and we're going to do that for the next 5 minutes, and then I'll either do a roll off based on a dice roll, depending on how many people say it. If not, if we just get one, that person's getting one of these prizes, because this is I want that prize.
Well, it could be anything too. Like it could be like a biker Smurf riding a turkey.
Yeah, like you can go all out
Whatever
on this one.
I remember when I first started doing this, it was last Christmas. I started doing Lostmorn, and I'm like, well, I'll see if I can sell some of my stuff for Christmas. $50 a pop. And I'm thinking, hot chicks, big dudes. No, the guy wanted a hippopotamus in like this regal, vintage sailor guy setting thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? How in the crap am I going to? I mean, I got it, and I was very proud of it. That's not at all what I was expecting.
Right? Yeah, no, you don't. Like I said, that's kind of the strangeness, right? Because you could get that kind of typical, really voluptuous women or really ripped out guys, or maybe the
Hippopotamus.
guy has a really or guy or gal has a really big infatuation with hippopotamuses or turtles or wolves or whatever the animal it is, and they're like, hey, I want to see this in kind of this anthropomorphic format with a sailor's outfit on, or a cowboy outfit, whatever it could be. I'm just throwing ideas out because it's what I'm thinking
I
off
just
the top
got
of my head.
a PM. They said they want me to draw you, and what? I can't repeat that sort of outfit,
Oh,
but
that's
it would
gonna be
be
nice.
very cheeky.
Very
And my
cheeky.
turnaround time, I'll have it done within 2 to 3 days.
He does. Oh my goodness. That 1 second. I'm gonna show something off now. This is
Okay.
gonna. This is this blew my mind. Um, where did he go? I have it somewhere. I know it's in here. The only reason I can show this off is because Derek drew this, and um, so back in the beginning of a little bit of story as I find this picture. Uh, Back when I first started Tabletop Misfits, we had introduced a character known as Valsirium the Corpse Eater. And this character was, off the top of my head, probably going to be the most vile character that I could come up with. And I went and I searched for what this could look like. And I had not been able to find anything I wanted that would even come close to it other than a miniature. And thankfully, we have amazing people like Derek who can take these types of ideas and create wonders out of them. So we are going to see firsthand Valsirium the Corpse Eater, who have, after speaking with the owner um,
The company.
of the company, yeah, the owner of the model, was more than happy for us to do this. So this was an awesome collaboration. So there he is. Oh my goodness, he's so cool. And this was my this was a, hey, I can't, I don't know how to ask this question, like, would you be interested in doing this? And before I knew it, it was already done, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Hey, what's going on, Heroes of Evermore? We are getting ready to give away our gift tonight. No, want to fight this? No, right? No, I do agree. This character is if you've watched our Tabletop Misfits stream for the last year or so, he is a character who is trying to find out how to become a god, and there are steps that he has to take, to which the party is slowly starting to figure out those steps as he is doing this behind the scenes. But yeah, so yeah, if you would like to still be a part of the giveaway, you just have to go into onto the chat in Twitch, and if you've stuck around this long, you need to type in Nehmet, Nehmet, and and if we get a bunch of those, then we'll get those. We'll raffle a PDF of Song of the Nehmet, their Kickstarter, off to one of those people, and I think we'll come up with another place to maybe we'll do a, what do you think? We'll do a social media one with yours, Derek.
Okay.
We'll put a social media collaborative post up where we can tag we'll tag both of us in it, and we'll push that out there and see how many people we can get to hit that and get them a custom art. So
He's really quick about it too. Like would give
I
him
know.
literally 2 sentences about it. All right, I need a character that, or a monster that's a
Yep.
mashup of these two things, and you can throw it together. And then you just say, that's good, but can we change this one little thing? And he'd bob back to me an hour later or something, or half an hour later.
Any future artist out there, saving layers. Literally, it's a quick sketch. You think I'm decent and I want to get better, but I use Clip Studio Art because it's got the blend tool, and it just makes my painting look awesome. And I have the head in a layer, each arm is in a layer, so if things got to be moved around or changed, is boop, drop, move. Makes life a lot easier.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel, just for a tweak.
Yeah, mashups are deadly sometimes. I do agree. But yeah, the right now we've got one person who's put the name in, so he's going to get our. And they are an amazing group out there on Instagram. That's how they introduced. We spoke together. And it's been a great time. I know that guy. Yeah. So if we don't hear anything else back, Heroes of Evermore, if you can just message me directly on Twitch, the Tabletop Misfits, with your email address, we'll get that sent over to you so you can get that free copy of Song of the Name It.
Yeah, and we're still adding every day. So up until like the last minute, and once we get those stretch goals, I'm hoping early to mid-April should have all the last few pages.
That's awesome.
So
it should be around. Yeah, no. Aliznor just stated he does not need it. He just kickstarted it. So.
Well, I appreciate that, but we need to get it out there. So.
But yeah, we like I said, we'll do the giveaway of the PDF on the show, and then we'll do a whole week long. When's the last day of your Kickstarter?
I have to check exactly. Let's see.
Okay.
It is.
So I want to make sure that if we're going to do this collaborative push, we don't go past the Kickstarter because we want
March 24th. Okay. At 6:35 in the morning, because I started.
Okay. So yeah, so what we'll do is tomorrow I'll type up some fun stuff on social media. We do ask that you share out this thing if you to help us get that out there. That'll be one of the goals, be to share, follow both Media Press and ourselves, and tag 3 of your friends. And if we get all that done, then you'll be added into a giveaway to get a custom drawing done by the artist of Song of the Name and a good friend of mine, Derek, who is offering such an amazing opportunity. So.
And if you happen to miss out on that thing, it's also an add-on. So, or say you win this one and you want a second one done because you're working on the whole party, you can order more of them from the Kickstarter as an add-on item, custom character. I'm trying to remember what our limit was. I think it was maybe 10 or 20 or something.
I went again. I do not know what's going on. I'm gonna have to reset something. My video just keeps cutting. Here, I'm back. So, but yeah. So, does anybody have any questions for either them or myself before we have last call? It has been a blast, but I know everybody does need to sleep, including myself. And yeah. Hey, I know that guy.
Sleep, what's that? I'm gonna hop off here and do some social media and do some more stat blocks. And
there you go. Look at that. Yeah, I got to prep for a game tomorrow, but
I'm going to go home. I've been at work for almost 14 hours, but I've had
having so much fun.
Yeah, no, like I said, I appreciate you guys coming on and spending time with me and your evening on a Wednesday night. You know, there could be many other things that everybody wants to be doing besides hanging out with us, but they come and hang out with us, and I feel so appreciated by you.
It's just a blessing, and it's humbling. It really is.
It's been an honor to just talk about your guys' Kickstarter and to just allow this talk. And please, if you have friends or you have people you know that want to have their voice heard, because they're creatives or they're GMs, or they've got really cool ideas that the tabletop community needs to hear, reach out to me and we'll see if you be a good fit for the show, and we'll have you on next week. We already have our slot for next week. It is Brian the bearded nerd will be coming on, and we're going to talk world building and big how to, you know, how to be a better GM. And Brian is a good friend of mine, and I'm looking forward to speaking with him on that subject. But until then, everybody, this is Last Call. This is the Tavern Talks, and we will see you guys on Sunday for our main show. All of it is, of course, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure, if you're watching this later on in life, that you hit that follow button or the subscribe button, depending on what channel you're on. And we will see you guys all next week for Tavern Talks.
See you guys.
Thanks for having me.